Well, I'm coming to you live from outside the Student Union here in Mankato. I haven't gotten as many introductions and finishes done as I normally, or as I did last time and as I normally try and do with these things. Sadly, well, I guess it isn't sadly, I just haven't been alone enough to really do it. And people kind of look at you oddly if you start talking to yourself in the mirror when they're around. Yep. See, I already got somebody looking at me strange. But anyway, so I will be recording the beginnings and ends, I think, probably when I get home. And I hope you've enjoyed LauraPalooza as much as I have, and that you will want to come back for July of 2015. Thanks.
I've had a very busy morning. I would, first of all, like to say I am very surprised at how many visitors I have today. There are quite a few of you. I've been doing a bit of visiting early today as my husband, Mr. Wilder, and my daughter, Rose, our daughter, Rose, and I will be soon embarking upon a great journey. This is such an unusual thing to use. I feel as though my own voice is coming back to me. It's much as when I wear the poke bonnet. Have you ever experienced that? Having a hat upon your head, and when you speak to another person, your own voice comes back to you?
To start off with younger children, you know that they have to have hands-on experiences, and that's what I love about living history, is it's very hands-on. So one of my favorite stories, of course, is the second chapter in Little House in the Big Woods, is Winter Days and Winter Nights, chapter 2. And they have beautifully, fortunately, beautifully put that or condensed that story into a picture book. When I started doing my presentations in the 1980s, there were no picture books. We were using the chapter book, and I still use the chapter book and talk about where the words started. And I have my original copies, of course, my 1932 copy of the Big Woods. So I show the children progressively how the stories worked with that. And I actually have my copy of Pioneer Girl when I get in with work with the older girls too, older kids too. But we start with the Little House in the Big Woods. But I read aloud Winter Days in the Big Woods, which is the chapter.
What I enjoy hearing from most of you, people who love all things Laura, is how the books came into your life and how they've impacted your life. This story may sound painfully familiar. For me, it was a 4th grade teacher. She picked up a book I had never heard of, Little House in the Big Woods. She would read to us every day at the end of the class day for about 20 minutes, if everybody was good. Well, you can guess. It wasn't me. One day, she slammed the book shut, put it away, and made us all lay our heads on our desks for 20 minutes while we waited for the bus. I was so upset. It caused me to get off the bus that night whining. Now, you know what that's like. You've either done it or you've heard it. It goes like this. Mom, would you start getting me these books by Laura somebody? Teacher's not reading them fast enough. My mother didn't know who Laura somebody was, so she called the school, found out it was Laura Ingalls Wilder. These books started to show up at my house. I devoured them. I loved them. I couldn't wait to get a hold of the next one. I asked for one for my birthday. I asked for one for Christmas. I tried asking for one for Halloween once. That did not work. But eventually I got them all, made my way through them, and when I got to the last one at the time, These Happy Golden Years, and read that last page, about Laura and Almanzo's wedding and closed that book, I was upset again. What happened next? I just had to know, and there wasn't much of a way to find out more at that point in the late 1950s. Well, years went by, and eventually I did get to all the home sites. I read every single word William Anderson wrote down, along with all the other authors. Some I believed, some I didn't. And then in 1989, when my supervisor at the library asked everybody who worked in the children's department to come up with a program that could be presented to the schools from the library, I knew what I had to do. I picked up my bonnet, my braid, all my books, my postcard pictures, and not much else. And I went into the schools and attempted to bring the stories to life for school children.
I'll say to the children, you know, when we saw Walnut Creek, it was fine. Anybody could have gotten across. It was not a problem, as Mr. Edwards had at Christmas time. Now, I can really say that the rest is history, because at this point, after I had done these tours and my headmaster knew how interested I was in this whole subject, he suggested that for our homeschooling division, which I'll explain in a minute, I write reading guides to the books. Calvert School is 115 years old. The homeschooling division is 106 years old. We educate children literally around the world, and now do a lot with charter schools also. Anyhow, his suggestion turned into these. This is 2 volumes. You were lucky because you get to see the second volume. I never carry 2 volumes when I go places because, quite frankly, they're just plain too heavy. We were blessed to have permission from HarperCollins to use 14 of the songs from the Little House Songbook, or Laura Ingalls Wilder Songbook, 25 of Barbara's recipes from the cookbook, and many, many of the original illustrations.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Suzanne Eversole. I'm from the site in Pepin, Wisconsin. And everybody should come to LauraPalooza. I'm having a wonderful time, and even at my age, I'm learning lots of new things. Bye.
As some of you may remember, I was the very first presenter at LauraPalooza 2010, and it was really kind of funny because I just showed up in my prairie dress and I didn't know what was going to happen and nobody else knew what was going to happen. Obviously it all turned out awesome. This is just me expressing my joy to be back in the area of Minnesota. This is a picture from my trip that I took from my book that was just a draft at the time, and now it's published and people have babies and books, and it's kind of exciting. People have done a lot of things. So I would just like to say I'm happy to be back. Meat, I guess really meat. Of my book ended up being, I sort of started, first of all, it started for me. I know we all have different Laura experiences, but for me, I sort of as an adult was wondering, why did me, as some kid in the suburbs, why was I so fascinated with farm chores? Like, what was so awesome about that? When I could just, you think about Laura and her surveyor's pantry and how excited she was. And, I grew up with this pantry with like 20 cans of Ann Page green beans and everything. So why was I so fascinated? So then it's like, why, what about that? What about was so fascinating about Laura's life to somebody who basically, I was kind of a pampered little weenie of a kid, right? And so then it kind of got me thinking about what was growing up in the 19th century really like. Was it really this great thing that Laura talked about? Was it like actually terrible and it was just this whole sham? So I started reading books about growing up as a kid in the 19th century. So I'm gonna tell you what I found out about that.